Even before the 1973 Supreme Court decision in Roe v. Wade, affirming abortion access as a constitutional right, UCC clergy and members have been engaged in reproductive justice advocacy.
Trust women who go through these doors. Trust these women. We trust them to know that they are the one and only person who has agency over her own body.
This has included 8 General Synod resolutions affirming the right to reproductive choice and the fundamental right of bodily autonomy.
As people of God, we seek justice. We are praying people who are pro-choice. We accept the responsibility, claim the tradition, and we embrace the right to choose prayerfully with the knowledge that God is with us in all of our circumstances.
Hi, I'm Sandy Sorensen, longtime director of the United Church of Christ Washington, D.C. office and a UCC advocate. UCC General Synod resolutions and statements reflect the definition of the term reproductive justice, formed by Black women who were engaged in the movement for reproductive health care for decades, with the goal of centering and defending women of color and other marginalized people. As Sister Song defines reproductive justice, it is the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, to have children, to not have children, and parent the children that we have in safe and sustainable communities. Our resolutions also reflect the theological belief that God has created each of us with moral agency and inherent worth and dignity, and that must include having autonomy over one's own body.
Seeing no matter what on your door reminds me that we believe that God loves us just as we are. God has endowed us with the ability to make choice, and our choices don't change our relationship with God no matter what.
Synod resolutions reflect the faith understanding that we are people of community, and equitable access to reproductive health care necessarily intersects with issues like affordable housing, quality public education, addressing food insecurity, preventing gun violence, the work of creating safe and sustainable communities for those who choose to parent children. This short video provides a snapshot of how UCC generations have engaged over the years in reproductive justice. It reflects our commitment to this justice struggle moving into the future. I am honored to be joined here by Reverend Dr. Bernice Powell Jackson, currently a pastor in Tampa, Florida, a longtime justice warrior and champion in the United Church of Christ in many, many capacities. I don't need to tell you how difficult justice work can be, and particularly the reproductive justice movement. So how has your faith kind of grounded you and carried you through that?
I would say when I first started working in the national setting of the UCC, which would have been in the 1980s, was when I really, those two parts of my life, that theological understanding and that practical life living understanding, began to really make me think about it. And I became exposed to lots of wonderful people in the UCC who were doing this reproductive justice work in the earliest days and pushing back against the whole idea that Christianity was against abortion. Throughout the years, as I have engaged in conversations with people, religious people who are pro-life, I've tried to say to them, I don't have a problem with your belief. I don't have a problem with you not having abortions or you not allowing someone else, your family or underage daughter. I have a problem when you tell me what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the conversation we've had with theological conservatives about a vast variety of things. I don't care how you interpret the Bible. If you want to interpret the Bible literally, that's fine. But don't require me to interpret the Bible literally.
Right.
And so I think that that's also a part of that conversation is how to help people understand that the essence for me is the requirement that other people live by someone else's faith.
Yes.
And that is deeply disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is deeply unconstitutional, oh, by the way.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
In terms of hope, my understanding is that hope is grounded in God. And I do believe that God is a God of justice. And so my hope is grounded in God. It's certainly not grounded in the members of the U.S. House of Representatives or any other, and certainly not in the Florida State House of Representatives or the Florida State Senate either. It's really grounded in the understanding that, as Martin Luther King used to say, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And so when you can hold on to that, I think that for me, that's what gives me the ability to keep on keeping on, to keep on marching, to keep on writing letters. And the other thing I would say living in Florida is unless those people who see themselves as being in the middle, those people who see themselves as being kind of quiet, and I'm not talking about Democrat or Republican, I'm not talking about red or blue. There's a huge number of Americans who see themselves in the middle. Unless the people in the middle speak up,
That's right.
everybody's freedoms will be
right.
lost.
That's right.
And so to me, that's so important. And I don't hear enough people in the
Mhm.
middle willing to say, I'm willing to speak out and say, no, that's wrong.
I'm Jessie Quinn, the online communications specialist in the United Church of Christ, Washington, D.C. office. We're so happy to have you here. So I would love to begin with you introducing yourself, if you would, and telling us about your connection to the United Church of Christ and anything about you personally that you would like to share.
Thank you so much, Jessie. First of all, I have to say thank you for the opportunity to the Washington office, Sandy Sorensen, and you, Jessie, for putting this together. My name is Linda Jaramillo. I'm an ordained clergy person in the United Church of Christ. And I'm a member of Ainsworth, United Church of Christ in Portland, Oregon, which is where I reside now. And for 10 years, I served as the executive minister for Justice and Witness Ministries in the UCC. But prior to that, I joined the UCC probably 45 years ago.
So we're speaking at a kind of pivotal moment, I would say, in the fight for reproductive justice, particularly thinking about the Dobbs decision, Supreme Court decision, effectively overturning the constitutional right to abortion. Could you speak to what you think the role or work is of the UCC in this moment, and how we might be being called to be engaged as the UCC?
I would say that the UCC's engagement, because of our bold witness and because of our commitment to social policy change, and that old mission statement of making sure that we're mobilizing, making sure that we're providing leadership capacity, making sure that we understand the issues, and making sure we're there in the public witness segment. Reproductive justice speaks to the whole idea of why the Dobbs decision came to the Supreme Court in the first place, and the marginalization of women of color primarily, who didn't ever have access, who never had safe options. But this really brought us to a new place. And that's why I'm calling it a reproductive health investment, a movement from lamentation to liberation. That's the way I identify it, is that we will lament, we will continue to grieve, not only the loss of many lives due to unsafe abortive practice, but also the loss of a dignity of people who had to make that terrible choice. And that's what the accompaniment is all about. So that's where I come to it, and that's where I believe we have a place at the table, because we've always believed in coalition building. I've always been so impressed by the ways in which, frankly, the Washington office We don't go out alone. Jesus sent them out in pairs. We don't go out alone, and we have to be careful not to think we're the only ones that are making a difference.
I am always interested to ask people who are justice warriors like yourself that have been engaged for so long in some of these movements. Is it just, for me personally, I'm curious what keeps you in the struggle, if you will, or what keeps you in the movement? Is there, I hear some of it in what you're talking about and how you're talking about it, but do you have any advice for that?
I think there's so many reasons that keep me in the movement, largely because it's not about I don't believe in what would Jesus do. What I do believe in is what Jesus did do. And what he did do was accompany women. He raised up the power and the dignity of women in his whole line of ministry. But I also am a person who's grounded in hope. And I'm grounded in hope because as the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard always said, hope is the passion for the possible. And I remember back in the day when I was doing, this work on a full-time basis, 24/7, one of the things people used to ask me is, how do you keep your spirit up? How do you keep the spirit up? There's often these disappointments and often discouragement. And I said, because Jesus came to give us the passion for the possible. And the passion for the possible is that we have hope in the lives of people who are continuing to be the prophets of our day, continuing to be the preachers of our day, continuing to be the priests of our day, who are vocalizing without fear the whole reality of equity and justice and reproductive choice and justice for all, not just some, but for all. And so that's what keeps me in the movement. And also it's kind of one of those moments of when the Dobbs decision came down, it's just, hell no, this is not going to be the end of us.
UCC engagement on reproductive justice has spanned decades. From the 1960s with advocacy for access to birth control, access to family planning resources worldwide, and access to safe and legal abortion services. From the Clergy Consultation Services Network to organizations like Faith Choice Ohio and state affiliates of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, UCC members and clergy have helped to provide safe and accurate, reliable information on reproductive health options and where to seek services. UCC members and clergy have served as clinic workers, escorts, and volunteers, provided medically accurate information and referrals, engaged in policy advocacy on the local, state, and federal level, and created spaces for education and faith formation around human sexuality and faith. And the work continues. The reproductive justice movement experienced a painful and disappointing setback with the Dobbs Supreme Court decision in 2022. Revoking the constitutional right to abortion. It is said that struggle is for every generation, and this time is no different. Join a long legacy of UCC advocates in the continued fight for abortion access and reproductive justice for all.